Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, Women in the Wild, Nat Hab's Alaska Bear Camp, presented by Nat Hab Expedition Leaders, Caprice Stoner, and Jessica Morgan. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Over to you, Caprice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. This is really exciting for us. I would also like to mention that March is Women's History Month. So this is the perfect time to have this presentation. And so let's go ahead and get started, okay? I would like to, first of all, introduce myself. I want to tell you that this is coming up is my 19th year as Bear Camp Manager in Chittenden Bay. So I'm really looking forward to it. And even though I've been here so long, so many years, every year when we start getting ramped up to start a new season, it feels like the first season to me. We get really excited about the new things that are coming up this summer. We look forward to seeing some of the bears that we saw last year and maybe the new ones we're going to see this year. Looking forward to seeing old friends and co-workers, and we really look forward to meeting new people and making new friends. That's really important to us. So some other things about me is I am a Leave No Trace certified trainer. We use these ethics a lot in everything that we do at Bear Camp as far as the way that we bear view, such things like that. I am also an alpine ski instructor, and um, I am mostly in cognitive impairment. I have my pilot's license, and I also have my wilderness first responder certification. So back over to Jessica. I'd like to introduce Jessica Morgan.
Thank you, Caprice. Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica. Very excited to be doing this webinar with Caprice today. This will be my third season up at Bear Camp. Very excited to be back. I got my start guiding in Yellowstone National Park, actually back in 2019, so about 5 years ago, working with different bear population, but nonetheless, I am very much in love with these animals. They are very special to me. Also a wilderness first responder and a contributor to Arizona Highways in my off time as a photographer. So great. Shall we go ahead and jump into this?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Perfect. So to talk first and foremost, where this wonderful adventure begins. As you can see on the map here, most everybody will be starting their trip in Anchorage. And you can see the yellow star there, right at the top of what we call the Kenai Peninsula. So again, this is south central Alaska. Most folks are either going to drive or fly down to Homer, Alaska, which is at the tip of the Kenai Peninsula. And if we zoom in even further there, you can see the Cook Inlet. Just east of the Cook Inlet is Homer. Beautiful little town. That's where you're going to start the trip. And then from there, you're going to fly across the Cook Inlet over into Chittenden Bay. You can see that there in those bold letters. And that is the southern tip of Lake Clark National Park. And that's where you'll be spending 3 nights. For a lot of our travelers, Lake Clark National Park is a brand new national park to them. It is one of the most remote national parks in our country and can only be accessed by water or air. Great. So Homer itself, this is a really cool picture of the spit or the Homer spit. And that's exactly what it is. It's a spit of land, a spit of sand, so to speak. It's a cute little town. There's a nice downtown kind of walking area where you can check out the different shops. A lot of opportunity to look at marine life and bird life and the like of that. But for our travelers, you will be arriving, most everyone, into the Homer Airport. And that's where our Nat Hab staff will be there to greet you, pick you up, and take you down to Land's End, which is the hotel at the very tip of the spit. You can actually see it in this picture. Beautiful hotel. And that's kind of your first introduction to Bear Camp, really. You get to know your expedition leader through the welcome presentation, who will help orient you on what to expect for the next few days. And it's also a great time to get to know your fellow travelers. You have a wonderful meal, and then after that is when you kind of start to switch gears. And one of the things that Caprice and I are going to talk about is how to pack for this trip. So typically folks are coming up to Alaska and this might not be their only itinerary, right? They might be spending a few weeks in Alaska or a month, depending on the time you have. So it's a good opportunity that evening to repack and bring only the essentials, only what you need to bear camp. And we'll talk a little bit about what the weight limits are for the airplane, but I want you to get familiar with hearing the number 25 as your weight limit. So again, prepping for the flight for the next morning requires kind of some packing and being diligent on what exactly you need. And also the next morning, if there's any luggage that you want to leave behind while you are at bear camp, you are 100% safe to do so. Nat Hab will make sure that it is in a safe and secure location while you are enjoying bear camp. So again, pack only what you need, and Caprice is going to go a little bit further into what that looks like.
Perfect. Okay. So when we tell people that they're only allowed to pack, to bring along 25 pounds of their personal items in a duffel bag, it starts making a lot of people really nervous. And I understand that. So I wanted to make suggestions on how to pack. So we'll go along here. So the first thing that I would recommend is to bring a sun hat, because the Alaska sun can be pretty intense. It may be kind of cool outside, but those rays are intense. So definitely bring your sun hat for protection. And then next, the thing to remember when you're packing to go out to bear camp is layer, layer, layer. We want to put on layers so that if you start to warm up, you can take a layer off, or if you start to get kind of chilly, you can add a layer. So layer, layer. So this next layer, the first layer, I always like to wear a short sleeve shirt next to my skin. That helps wick away the moisture from my body, and it also helps this next layer I'm about to talk about keep it nice and fresh, so you can wear the next layer multiple days. So that next layer would be a fleece pullover or a zip up to keep you warm, and we'll layer that up, kind of like the one that Jessica and I are both wearing right now. And then your next layer would be a puffy down jacket, just a little added warmth, another layer. And then, of course, it does rain in Alaska, and we're going to recommend that you bring your favorite lightweight rain jacket. And we'll talk a little bit more about rain jackets in a minute. But these rain jackets will also serve as a wind blocker. We are right on the coast, and sometimes the wind coming off of the Cook Inlet, off of the bay in Chittenden Bay, get a little chilly, so it helps block the wind coming off the bay there. Okay, so next, I highly recommend you invest in some lightweight wool gloves as liners. Wool gloves, believe it or not, will keep your hands warm even when they're wet, unlike some other materials. So a nice pair of wool liners are great. And we do have some gloves at camp that we'll talk to you about in just a minute. So, okay, next, we're always looking for the ultimate hiking pant, aren't we? But my favorite, yeah, is like a zip-off type of hiking pant, so that if it warms up for you, then you can just zip off and you have a pair of shorts, and you don't have to pack two separate items. Okay, so then the next layer underneath that, we would do a base layer, either polypropylene, or I prefer Smart Wool is my brand that I go to. And as you can see, there is a theme here with the wool, because it keeps you warm, and anytime it gets wet, it still keeps you warm, even though it's chill, even though it's wet. And then a nice wool pair of socks, because it pulls the moisture away from your feet and keep your feet nice and healthy while you're there. And then last but not least on this screen, a pair of really sturdy hiking shoes. Now, we're going to show you a little bit later the terrain that you're going to be hiking in or walking in. And it's not all of that, it's pretty gentle to be walking in this area. So we're not going to recommend expedition weight hiking boots or anything, but just some really sturdy hiking shoes, preferably waterproof, will be perfect. Okay. And plus you wear the hiking shoes on the airplane, and that's less weight in your personal duffel bag. Okay. So this next picture coming up. So I did not put this on the model because I wanted you to see all of those other layers and explain those to you. But of course, a good pair of waterproof rain pants. Again, it does rain at Bear Camp, but it also will help keep you warm by blocking that wind. Okay. So we really want to remind you not to forget the following items. First of all, we recommend that you bring your own prescription and bring all the prescriptions that you have, for like a week's worth, just to be on the safe side. And this also accounts for over-the-counter medications such as Tylenol or Advil. You know what works for you, so we want you to have what works for you out at Bear Camp. And then, of course, bring your sunglasses. And when I travel, I always bring at least 2 pair of readers, just in case I break one or lose a pair. You know how that goes. Um, of course, bring your own toiletries, your toothbrush, your toothpaste, and floss. And then also, we're really going to ask you to bring your water bottle out to Bear Camp with you. And of course, I recommend to empty them before you get on the airplane. It takes away a little bit of weight, and we don't want it to leak on any of the things that you're packing in your bag. So in addition to these things, including the past 2 screens that we showed you and these things that we see as essentials, I also added 3 t-shirts, 3 pair of socks, and then 3 pair of underwear. And I loaded them all into this duffel bag and weighed them. And all of those items only weigh 10 pounds. So you've got a good start. You still have a little bit of weight left over so that you can add to it. And this is the way I pack when I come out to Bear Camp.
Perfect. Thank you for doing that, Caprice. I think that helps a lot to visualize. And yeah, it's very helpful because I think a lot of times 25 pounds, everybody kind of freaks out. That's not much, but it is doable. And I think it's doable because a lot of the things we provide at camp. So very helpful. Just to show you here, we provide shampoo, conditioner, and soap in the shower houses, so don't worry about bringing that, as well as lotion, sunscreen. We have a bunch of different types of sunscreen for you. Mosquito repellent and head nets are key. Although it can be windy, since we're on the ocean there, some of the other parts of camp, especially in the woods, can be quite buggy. So we've got a nice array of natural and locally made mosquito repellent, as well as more heavy duty stuff. And if you don't want to spray anything on your face, which I totally get, those mosquito head nets work really well. We also provide headlamps in each of the rooms. So at night, if you need to get out and use the bathroom, you feel free to put on a headlamp. Camp shoes also, we have everybody's shoe sizes, and as we are prepping for turnover for the next group, we are making sure that those camp shoes are accurate and in your tents. To me, this is a huge space saver. Wear your hiking boots or comfortable walking shoes on the plane, and don't worry about packing any other shoes because we're going to provide you some slip-ons that you can wear around camp. Obviously, if you want to wear your own shoes, that's totally fine. But for space and for weight, having those extra shoes there is very helpful. Trekking poles we'll also provide. Tripods, so any of the photographers or videographers out there that would like to borrow a tripod, we've got you covered. We have enough binoculars for everyone to borrow as well. That's a nice space saver. Spotting scopes to share, and rain boots and rain jackets. And we're talking very heavy duty rain gear. Very, very good at keeping the water off of you, keeping you dry. Keeping you dry is what's going to keep you warm. So we take that very seriously at Bear Camp. And of course, beanies and buffs and neck gaiters just to keep you extra warmth. So it's nice. We kind of joke that it's the camp REI. And when you come into camp, it's a nice opportunity to kind of pick out what you want to use for the next three or 4 days. Okay, great. Next, what is in my camera bag? So if you are into photography, I'm going to just share with you what I bring in terms of my camera equipment. So I always bring my camera body, which is a Sony, and I tend to keep my 100 to 400 millimeter lens attached almost all the time. It's a nice kind of mid-range zoom. That 400 millimeter really does great for any bear viewing. I keep it on my body itself, so that when we get off of the plane and we're ready to start bear viewing, we're not worrying about trying to fix different lenses on. So having that ready to go when you're getting off the plane is key. I do also recommend bringing maybe a wide angle lens if you've got one. 16 to 35 is my go-to. There's some really great landscape opportunities in Alaska, especially with those longer days, and you get that nice long golden hour. Cleaning cloths, waterproof camera cover, definitely recommend bringing one of those, or a rain jacket for your camera. Extra batteries and the charger, of course, and memory cards. Now, I put in on this picture as well a cell phone, a point and shoot, a cell phone, whatever camera you have with you is the best one, right? If it works for you and it causes the least amount of disruption, especially if we've got bears potentially walking by us, use that. I like to keep my cell phone either in my pocket or in my backpack, easy to grab if I need to. So yeah, this is just my recommendations for camera gear. Try to keep it simple. And again, whatever camera you've got with you works. And also just taking it in with your eyes, being present, being mindful, and watching whatever unfold in front of you is just as special.
Nice. I like that last part, Jessica. Just taking it all in because it can be very exciting, especially in the beginning, for sure. So let's move on to how we're going to get across the Cook Inlet from Homer over to Bear Camp. So you see here, these are the de Havilland Beaver. These could be some of the airplanes, one of the airplanes that the company that we use to fly us across the Cook Inlet may use. Um, these Beavers have mostly been used as a bush plane for passenger, and we will take 7 passengers at a time typically. The pilots are safe and knowledgeable, and these planes are outfitted with headphones so to cancel out the noise coming from the engine sometimes. But it also gives the pilots the ability to talk to you and give you an interpretive tour of the things that you're seeing as you're flying across the Cook Inlet. This is part of my favorite time of the spring. I spend a lot of time in Alaska in the springtime, but I feel like I'm really coming home when I fly across that Cook Inlet and I start to see those jagged peaks. That's when know I'm back home. So I love it. So coming into this next picture is coming into the bay, kind of give you an idea where you're going to be for the next 3 nights. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen is the beach, and that's actually where the airplane will be landing, and that the staff members will come out and meet you at the plane and take you on up into camp. You see your tent cabins there in the middle part of the screen, next to the woods and the trees. And then above that on your screen, the green area is where we will spend most of our time to bear view. This is the critical wildlife habitat, and I'll explain that to you in just a minute. But these are the areas that we're going to be spending most of our time. Again, this is a little bit closer view of camp. You start to see the gazebos, your tent cabins, and I want to let everyone know that the staff members also have tent cabins very close to yours, and we let you know where we are at all times. So if you have questions or if you need anything at any time, we're available to you. Okay. And then I think you'll start to see the electric fence going around the immediate camp area. And Jessica's going to explain a little bit more to you.
Yeah, thanks, Caprice. Yeah, you can see it in this photo down at the bottom there, circling the perimeter of camp. You can see it here in this next photo. This is a nice shot of what you see when you get off the plane and you're walking up our driveway. And you can see that electric fence. It is hooked up 24/7 to a 12-volt battery. It does work, and it acts as a deterrent for a lot of the bears. A lot of the bears in Shenandoah Bay are used to seeing camp getting set up every May and taken down in September. And they know to avoid going near that electric fence. They'll hit it with their little wet nose. And that's enough of a deterrent to say, okay, this isn't where I need to be. So not to worry. And then, of course, for your safety, you will not be leaving the camp and outside of the fence without one of the staff members. So again, safety is paramount and we take it very seriously. Once
Absolutely.
you come into camp here, you will see our camp as a whole. We're going to take you around to do an orientation of the camp. And you can see on the left here, we've got our outhouse with running water, electricity. And then on the right is a photo of me explaining the shower house. So on demand, hot and cold water, 24/7. It's really, really great, very comfortable. One of my favorite places as well is the gazebo, as Caprice had mentioned from those aerial shots. The gazebos are a wonderful piece of camp as kind of a communal meeting space. And both are equipped with these wonderful fire pits. And you can't see it in this photo, but last year we did add some enclosures around. So it's really nice on those windy or rainy days to put the flaps down, get it nice and hot in there, and just chat with your fellow travelers. You also have a really great opportunity to look for bears walking by on the beach. This is a wonderful place to have your morning coffee or your glass of wine at happy half hour. I love the gazebos. They are great.
Very nice. Okay, so on the inside of your tent cabins, you'll see here that we have two twin beds in each cabin, and these beds are made up with very comfortable blankets and comforters and a faux fur throw blanket there to keep you nice and warm and cozy. We furnish mosquito nets if you feel the need to put a mosquito around your bed at night, mosquito net around your bed. We furnish rechargeable lamps and rechargeable headlamps for the time that you're out at camp. Um, we also furnish toiletry boxes to put your toothpaste and toothbrush in. And then, of course, each tent is outfitted with a heater, and we make it so that you can run it all night long if you want to. These are really wonderful heaters. Keep the tent nice and cozy on those cool summer nights in Alaska. And then you can't see it here, but there is a divider at the back of the room for privacy. So there is also an ensuite toilet back there for you to use the bathroom during the night, so you don't have to walk across camp to that camp toilet. You can just stay in your room, which makes it really nice for your convenience and safety. So, and then next, in the next shot, so this is the dining tent, and the dining tent is in the center of the camp. This is where we'll all gather to have all of our meals. Everything that you eat while you're here needs to be consumed inside the dining room, so we don't bait any unwanted visitors into camp for your safety. And then also, we just this past year, we put in this nice sliding glass door. So you have a wonderful view of the mountains across the bay or outside while you're having dinner or your meals. There is a fireplace inside the dining tent. And this is also where you'll go to charge your camera batteries or your cell phones for taking more pictures. Okay. We also keep liquids, hot water and coffee almost all the time. And this is also where you'll access your own fresh water each day for drinking. We also use this tent for doing our presentations, usually once a day. So it's a nice, cozy place for everybody to gather. Okay. And speaking of food, I wanted to give you a glimpse of some of the delicious meals our chefs are so good at putting together out here at Bear Camp. We use local Alaska grown meat as well as produce every chance we can. It is important to us, of course, that each person is satisfied with the meals with consideration to special dietary needs. So I want to ask you, when you are filling out your pre-trip paperwork, to please make sure that your dietaries are up to date. That helps us both. That helps us all. So you guys can be sure and have some really good meals while you're there. Okay. All right. Okay. So this map, I like to show everyone a map of the area. I think it gives you an idea of the area you'll be spending time. And so let's take a look at this park map. Okay. Down at the bottom, there is a small little purple area that says private property. So that is actually where Bear Camp is located. It is 17.5 acres. It was once a homestead. And it is surrounded by Lake Clark National Park and Preserve, which was established in 1980. But more importantly, we are butted up against a critical wildlife habitat. That area that you see in red, that is the habitat, and it is closed to human activity walking out in that area from May the 1st until September 1st, so that the bears can have a safe space, so they can be there and graze without feeling like they're being pushed around by humans, so that moms can bring their babies out and nurse them out in the open, and of course also mating season. So, but what the Park Service has done for us is set up viewing sites all along the east side of that critical habitat. And on this map, they are indicated by the little bear icons with the little dots leading into the bear icons. So that's where you see those viewing sites. Now we have to enter the viewing sites from the beach side. We cannot move from place to place along the creek bed there. So sometimes we can walk to the trailheads and then walk into the viewing sites. But for you all, we have this wonderful thing we call the Bear Mobile, and we can all load up on the Bear Mobile, drive down to the trailhead of the viewing sites, and then we will need to unload, of course, and walk into the viewing sites there. As I said, the trails are very well maintained. They're very gentle. There are no hills to walk up and down. It's a nice stroll in the woods, if you will. And then, of course, this next shot is a group of people that are walking out on our property towards our viewing platform. We have our own private viewing platform that is overlooking that critical wildlife habitat. There's a lower level with plenty of room so that people can put their tripods there, and it can accommodate up to 14 people at least down there below. But there's also an upper deck that is about 18 feet, I'm sorry, 8 feet off the ground. And it gives you a good view in the back of the bay. You can see things that are going on a little bit different higher up on the viewing platform. Okay. Now, bear viewing is kind of a sedentary activity. So once a day, one of us will offer you the opportunity to go for a non-bear viewing walk, so we can get a chance to stretch our legs, get a little exercise in. It's not necessarily a bear viewing opportunity, but if a bear walks in front of us, then that's okay too. So we love it. There's always something to see, and even without the bears, you can tell it's just an absolutely gorgeous place to visit and to hang out. So, and then this year, with the women's groups as they are out there, in the morning, we're going to offer a chance to do some stretching, not quite yoga, but a little bit of stretching to get our joints and our blood going right before breakfast each morning. So that's going to be fun, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's great. I love the afternoon walks. I feel like it's an opportunity to actually really get to know your fellow travelers, because you're not actively bear viewing, so you can talk and you're walking. And I think, yeah, it's just a really nice way to kind of clear your mind. And I think it's
Absolutely.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So speaking about bear viewing and what that looks like, our biggest takeaway that we want you to understand is our goal is to never disrupt bears, right? We want them to keep living their life as if we weren't there as best as possible. And so what that means is minimizing our profile on the landscape. This was a shot taken just out front of camp on the beach there. And it's up to your guide, of course, to communicate with you as a group to make sure that we are doing the best we can to stay low, stay quiet, kind of blend in as one. And a lot of that means taking cues from your guides as well, right? If your guide starts talking quietly or getting down low, we ask that you try to mirror that. If getting low or on your knees is not a possibility, which is totally fine, maybe stand behind somebody that can, right? So you're just one person at that moment. Some of the national park sites that we go to, for instance, this one, maybe a quarter of a mile from camp, the National Park Service has put these wonderful logs there, as you can see. So it's great. We can all have a seat and just watch the scene unfold in front of us. That's what a lot of the bear viewing, which happens about 3 times a day, will look like. And depending on how far the bears are, we might say it's okay to stand up. If you need to stretch, sit back down, whatever that might look like. But again, taking cues from your guides is crucial. A lot of these sites are also shared with the bears, of course. This is a shot Caprice took a few years ago of mom and cubs hanging out at that same exact log at site 2. So again, listen to your guides. We're going to make sure everybody is safe and that we are also not disturbing any of the bears.
Awesome.
Cool. I like this shot as well. This is a photo from what we call the cliffs. So if you think of Chinitna Bay, it's on the eastern side, and slightly different geology on that portion of the bay, which allows for different terrain, a lot more jagged terrain, different plant life. We see a lot more deciduous trees out there, and it's really fun because that's our opportunity during a low tide to venture to a different part of Lake Clark National Park and potentially get to see clamming bears, right? So of course, the low tides that happen twice a day can happen. Clamming can happen anytime during that period, but it's a fun ride down to the cliffs. And you can see here, the guide in the front is leading a group single file. And so again, minimizing that profile on the landscape. If we have a bear clamming out on the beach, the last thing we want to do is look like 15 people all advancing towards this one bear. So staying single file is key. Moving slow. If somebody wants to stop and take a photo, we all stop and take a photo. We don't want gaps in between people. Safety, I can't drive that home enough, is so important for you. And of course, the trekking poles there, those are great to use. If you are a little unsteady on your feet, we got you covered.
Perfect. Thank you, Jessica. So Jessica mentioned that we do have two ties a day, and I believe this picture was taken pretty much right out in front of camp. So the bears will go. We do spend a lot of time viewing the bears in the critical habitat out in the sedge meadow, but the bears can potentially come by camp and head on out to the beach and out into the mud flat. So it's pretty fun to see that type of behavior. Um, and then also we can potentially find them in the woods that are, as they're moving past. It's pretty interesting. They show up just about anywhere. So we're always diligent, and we're always very careful to keep ourselves between you and the bears at all times. That is our job. So another thing that I'm looking forward to as we head back out to bear camp is a lot of times we will see the same family groups from year to year, year after year, should I say. And this is a family that we've seen for the past 2 summers. They have been so much fun. These two cubs have great personalities, and the mom is pretty tolerant. So this is about as close as we typically get to them. But they've been a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to seeing how they fared through the summer. I'm sorry, through the winter. This picture was taken about 100 yards from camp. There are outcropping of rocks that are close to us, and there are some areas where the bears like to just hang out and nap whenever they're not feeding. So we'll always keep an eye out for these bears. Um, and it's always fun to see where they're sleeping up on the hills there.
Yeah, it's fun when we do like our afternoon walks and stuff. We walk around camp and we look up at these rocks, and you always tell guests, make sure you look up. Who would think to look up when you're trying to look for bears? But yeah, looking up is key. Okay, great. So some of the other animals that you might see on your bear camp adventure are bald eagles. Very good chance you will see them, if not hear them. We do have an active bald eagle nest as of last summer and the summer before, right next to camp. So we will most likely point it out to you, and you can definitely hear them. Sometimes you'll see them fishing behind camp in the river there, which is a really cool sight. And of course, the foxes of Alaska, very charming. This is part of a fox family that lived in the homestead, yes, in in under the house of the homesteader next door, which we'll talk about in a second. And yeah, mom and dad were raising 4 kits, I believe, all summer, and it was like having little dogs next door. It was very, very cool. Moose is another potential animal to see. Kind of rare. Maybe once or twice a summer I see them out in that wildlife habitat. They're usually running across the meadow when they see a bunch of other brown bears around, thinking, "Oh, I should not be here right now." But you do have a decent chance of seeing moose in Homer, so keep your eyes peeled at the beginning and the end of your trip. And then kind of along the same vein, black bears, pretty rare in this area, but there is a chance you could potentially see a black bear wandering around wondering what it's doing there. And then of course, because we have the woods and the meadow and the ocean, we have this kind of nice trifecta of birds, right? We got a lot of swallows, sparrows, falcons, gulls, sea ducks. So for any birders out there, it's a great chance to get some cool Alaskan species knocked off your list.
For sure. I just wanted to mention, Jessica, that we do have that eagle's nest really close to camp. So it's always fun to hear them early in the morning or late at night and to see how many
Yeah,
babies they've had that year. So we're looking forward to that too. Yeah.
yeah.
So some of the other things that we may do while you're at camp, as I mentioned earlier, this camp is placed on what used to be a homestead or is a homestead. And this fellow on the left side here, his name is Wayne Byers. He lived out there for over 40 years, summer and winter, year round. And I had the honor of getting to know him before he passed away. And so if you're interested, and we would love for you to, we'll set up a time. We'll do an interpretive tour of the homestead, and I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the things I learned from him about his lifestyle. He was quite the character, and he was a really good friend of mine. I miss him terribly, but I will be so happy to share some of the things that I know about him during the time that you're there. So.
Totally. And I highly recommend. I think the homestead tour is honestly one of the highlights of camp. And I think Caprice, you do a really good job of telling stories, and you've got kind of his mannerisms down, and you tell it with such heart. It like tugs at my heartstrings every time I see you on that tour. So highly recommend.
Thank
the
you,
homestead.
Jessica. That was nice.
All right, great. This is a shot taken from last year in the summertime when we had our Women in the Wild trip. And this is Ranger Diana that you see on the left here. She is one of our many backcountry rangers. She lives about 2.5 miles up the beach. She's great. She's a presence in a very remote place. She's an educator. She greets people. She informs folks on how to bear view safely. She's been coming to Lake Clark for over 10 years now. National Park Service runs in her blood. I think she's like 3rd or 4th generation. National Park Service. And so she'll come on over most weeks and just check in with us. And she came over and talked to the women of this trip who all decided they wanted to be junior rangers. And it's a really fun little program that we can help you get set up with. And she'll come over and swear you in, and she's got a badge. It's a lot of fun. There was a lot of laughter this afternoon. I'll never forget. But it's a really great chance to get to know what it's like for a woman to be living out here in this really remote area. Fun fact, all of the backcountry rangers in Lake Clark National Park are female. So really cool to see. It's a great opportunity to get to know her and what it's like to live off the grid as somebody who has to bring in her own food and essentially be alone and be with the bears. Very strong-minded woman. So yeah, really
Very
special.
good. Yeah, she is. She's a really neat person. We have a lot of fun with her. I would also like to mention that if you have a national parks passport, Diana has the stamp out there to be able to stamp your passport. A lot of people, they like to keep up with how many national parks they've been to, and Lake Clark does have its own stamp. So be sure and bring your passport. If you don't have it, or if it is over your weight limit, she can just stamp a piece of paper that you can put that into your national parks passport. So that's pretty neat. And another cool fact is that um, the superintendent of both Lake Clark and Katmai National Park is the same person. Her name is Suzanne Fleet Green, and she is a wonderful, wonderful advocate for us at camp and the bears. She is very, very responsive to me. Sometimes I email her during the winter time and we talk about things. She's very good at responding to me. And we have a really good relationship with the Park Service, and I'm very proud of that. And we want to keep that going. So that's good.
Totally. I think it's really speaks volumes that in such a traditionally male-dominated space, it's empowering. It's really cool to see women being in these spaces now. Yeah, wonderful.
Beautiful. Okay, so on this page, we put in a few of the comments that we received from some of the women from last trip, from last year, the Women in the Wild. So while you're perusing over those, I just want to say once again that thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing and meeting you and becoming friends with you. Um, we want you to feel welcome as if you are coming into our home. We want you to feel safe and comfortable, of course, because that makes for better bear viewing when you're comfortable. And while you make new friends, like I said, these friends, I I received so many emails during the winter time of people that I've enjoyed spending time with at bear camp, and we share something very special, almost spiritual out there. So, and I have to tell you, the women in the wild is always they're always a fun bunch to hang around. They're so much fun when like-minded people come together. Great things happen. So, thank you.
Totally. Yeah, it's super inspiring, I think too. I mean, I learned from the women. I learned from you, Caprice, because I see a different side of you. You tap into something a little different. I think when it's an all women's trip, you can be a little more vulnerable, share a little bit more about yourself, whatever that looks like. And I love it. I think they're super fun trips, and we're really excited to have you this summer. So yeah, we want to just take this time to thank you all for joining us today to celebrate women as a whole, but also get you prepared for a really fun adventure this summer.
Awesome.
Great. I
All
think Rob will add in, yep, any questions
right.
we're ready
All right,
for.
thank you both. Now, before we start in with the question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone that you can submit your questions via the question field in your control panel. All right, let's get to some questions today. So, does the fence deter other animals? Um, is it going to be possible to see the foxes and others with the fence still up?
That's a great question. Do you want me to take this one, Jessica?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yes. So, the funny thing, the foxes actually can kind of scoot underneath the electric fence, and they like to play underneath the cabin tents last year. This was the only time it's ever happened this past year. We don't chase them down for better pictures, and we don't shoo them off. We just watch them. And like I said before, we obviously don't have food outside, so they don't get fresh food. So it's just a treat to have them walking around camp, and you can see them while we're having dinner. They'll be playing right out in front of the yard, through that sliding glass door. We can watch them while we're eating. So yes, the foxes do come through camp, and then they don't let us get too close to them, which we don't want to. Um, we have some a black bear that came by last year, and what we're hoping for is for the bears. They're very curious. We want them to touch the fence with their little wet nose, and it gives them just enough shock to be uncomfortable, and they take off. And it happens all the time. We hear them getting a little tingle during the night, so they don't enjoy that at all. So
Great, thank you. So, talking about bears, of course, are we seeing Kodiak bears? We seeing brown bears? Can you let us know?
sure, go ahead, Jess.
Sure, yeah. So we are seeing coastal brown bears. Kodiak brown bears would be found on the island of Kodiak, further south. Grizzly bears would be found further inland, right? So it's kind of a regional thing based on life history and diet. Still, Ursus arctos, which is the same as the grizzly, but we call them brown bears, right? So they're a little bit bigger because of their diet and the availability for food. But yes, these are, call them Alaskan coastal brown bears.
Great, thank you. So,
Yeah.
how long do bear cubs stay with mom?
I can take this one, Jessica.
Yep.
So typically about 2.5 years. These bears are born in the wintertime in the den while they're hibernating. And so they'll be with mom for about 2 summers. And then whenever they go back into the den, they hibernate with them one more year, and they will typically come out, and she will probably emancipate them. And during the time that she has them, she teaches them how to I call it making a living, learn how to take care of themselves, so that whenever she does emancipate them, they can take good care of themselves.
So, are there any wolves in Alaska? Is that a species that we'll see?
Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, so there are wolves, yep, in Alaska. There is a chance, a possibility to see them. Yeah, you'll hear them more likely than see them. However, I think my first summer I saw one run across the meadow. Also coyotes, so occasionally you'll hear coyotes. I don't know, how often do you see wolves, Caprice? Because you've been there obviously a lot longer than I
Right.
have.
So it is different years, and that depends on the availability of their food source and where their food source is at the time. So some years we do see wolves. They're very skittish. They stay far back in the back of the meadow, and it's just a glance of them. One time I actually did see a family of 7 wolves, which was rare. But occasionally we will see tracks on the beach. So they're very crepuscular, which means they like to be out early in the morning and right before dark. And in Alaska, that can be anywhere from 1 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the morning. So we're typically sleeping at that time. So we do see tracks occasionally, um, but on the rare chance that you feel very lucky that you get to see them. And the entire camp, all of the people that work there, all of the staff, we will radio and say, "Hey, there's a wolf out here. Come and see." And it's a rare sighting, so it's not a dependable sighting. But when you do get to see one, you feel very fortunate, very special. It's a special time.
Great, thank you. So, does the eagle's nest have a name, and is there a webcam installed?
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Caprice, if you want
Okay.
to.
So we call it by a couple of names just because we have a couple of viewing sites out there. We call it the Eagle's Nest or the Eagle's Perch, and it is on our property. It is not on the National Park Service property. So it is on the private property, but actually that is a great idea. So maybe we will talk to some of our webcam people to see if that's something. Um, the problem is there's not electricity out there. So you will be able to see the eagles and maybe the babies at sometimes, but there is not a webcam set up right now.
Well, thank you for addressing that.
Yeah.
So, to view, are we going to be taking small stools or buckets out with us, or are we just going to be walking around?
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously being comfortable is key. We have really comfortable seat cushions that we have with us at all times, especially when we take the Bear Mobile. Everybody gets a seat cushion. We recommend any of the viewing sites that we do go to that have the logs, which all three of the national park sites have logs. Bring the seat cushion with you, sit down, very comfortable. And our private viewing deck also has chairs to sit in. If it comes to a point where we're watching bears clam, for instance, or maybe they're fishing later in the season, we might bring buckets or something for you to sit on as well. But it is really nice too. Even the Bear Mobile acts as a great place to sit and watch everything unfold. So, yeah.
So, is there a better time to come to bear camp if I wanted to see bear cubs? Is that something you could address?
Sure. Yeah. So there is a seasonality to some of the bear viewing. As soon as we get up there, the 1st of June is typically around the 1st of June is typically mating season. Occasionally we will see last year's cubs or 2-year-old cubs. But not necessarily the new cubs. I call them spring cubs because that's the first time I see them is in the springtime. But towards the end of June, 1st of July, we will probably start seeing the the new the newborn cubs. So the end of June or the 1st of July is a better bet. Before that, the moms won't bring the new cubs out because the big males are in the meadow during mating season, and they don't want to bring them around the big males. So the end of June or 1st of July, we will start seeing them typically.
Great, thank you. So let's talk about camera equipment for just a second. Is the weight of the camera equipment part of my allowance, or can I bring a little something extra?
Yeah, so everything you bring has got to equal 25 pounds. So that's why Caprice did a great job weighing everything clothing wise, and that came out to 10 pounds. So I would say if you can get your camera bag, which also maybe make that your carry-on, so to speak, right? Your other valuable belongings in there between 10 to 15 pounds, I think you should be good. My biggest advice for you is just be mindful of how much camera equipment you're bringing. I totally get it. It is kind of a once in a lifetime place, and you want to make sure that you're prepared for anything. But yes, it is included in that 25. So bring a nice zoom lens, whatever you enjoy using as your zoom lens, and maybe a wide angle. And then I would say that's it. So
So, do you recommend any other itineraries that pairs well with bear camp?
Yes, actually, I'm not sure exactly how they connect it to Bear Camp, but the Ultimate Alaska, if you'll check that out or contact your adventure specialist, they can hook you up with one of those activities and also the Ursus, the grizzly boat. So I'm not sure how they would coincide with the scheduling, but I'm sure that your adventure specialist will be able to help you with it.
Great. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is going to be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you for any closing comments you guys may have for us.
So again, I just wanted to thank you all for being here today. I really look forward to this summer. I can't wait to see what unfolds. I never get bored. I never get tired of it because there's always something new and exciting. I look forward to meeting new people. And I enjoy the connection of the things that I see. I love to see it through people's eyes. I like to see the twinkle in somebody's eyes when they hear a baby nursing because they're so close to us. That's what gives me the energy back, and that's why I keep coming back. So I look forward to seeing you on the beach, and we'll take you up to Bear Camp. Jessica?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautifully said, Caprice. Yeah, thank you all for joining in and watching this webinar today. Super excited to be back up there this summer and get to know you all. The Women in the Wild trips really are very fun, very inspiring, and yeah, it's a chance for us to, like Caprice said, kind of relive seeing that place for the first time and seeing it through your eyes. So thank you.
Jessica, Caprice, thank you both so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd also like to thank everyone who tuned in today. Now, if you are interested in information on how you can travel with Nat Hab, please give us a call at the number on your screen, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude today's webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.